Well, thank you for joining. We're delighted to have an alum of ours, among the other alums here in attendance, but as our featured speaker today. Kian Merchant Borna, originally from Maine, went to a private ski academy in the middle of Maine. His dad is Iranian by background, came to the U.S. when he was deciding whether to go to the U.S. or to Russia, and a woman in the Rochester area who gave generous scholarship support attracted him to come to the United States. His mom currently works for Colby, and he and his family, Rachel, his wife, who we met here at Alfred University, and they have two kids, Lucy and Monty, that are also with them, 5 and 4 years old. They've got to rush back to Rochester after this talk, get the RV, and drive to Maine to visit with family. We're going to look to reconnect with his quasi-mother who brought his dad to the United States, so we can say thank you, because she also played a key role in getting Kian to come to Alfred University. He was a biology and environmental studies major with us here. He played for our soccer team. The soccer team made it into the NCAAs. I went from here to pursue a Master's of Public Health at BU, was pursuing a PhD in toxicology, but decided instead of the faculty route, I really want to focus on research. Ended up coming to the Rochester area. His wife's family's from here. They're a family business that she works for in the Dansville area. They're into truck repairs. Multiple generations. Business has been pretty good because a lot of stuff's getting shipped around nowadays, and so a truck repair is one of those businesses that's been doing well through COVID. Kian was also the recipient, earned an MBA from my former school, University of Rochester, Simon Business School, in 2015. And now he heads the industry-based research unit for emergency medicine at the University of Rochester. Very much in the news over the last year and a half on account of COVID. It's been a very successful unit. He's built it up, both in terms of number of personnel. I just found out that he's recently looking to hire one of our students before that student ends up going elsewhere. And mentioned that we'll have other students as well that he should be looking at down the road. But very much in the news, in particular for the Binax Now antigen-based rapid COVID test. So something that you could do like a pregnancy test in under 15 minutes and for under $5. And because it could be turned around so quickly and is less expensive, it's also viewed as a game changer. We're still going to be testing all of our students here on campus, the ones that aren't vaccinated. So he also brought with him a box of antigen-based rapid tests as a gift to our university, and want to publicly acknowledge that support. We'll put the tests to good use this year. And without further ado, and he was also an honors program member when he was here with us. And just a small little personal factoid, both his parents are radical feminist Muslims. And one of the things he's particularly proud of, given his father's roots, born in Baghdad but Iranian by background. So we're pleased his dad's travels brought him here, and that he ended up we're proud of him as a graduate of our university. So without further ado, Kian, we're thrilled you're here.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Yeah, you bet. Yeah. Can you guys all hear me okay? All right, great. So thank you for the very nice, thorough introduction, Mark. He just took away like 80% of my talk. So I'm going to go through it anyway. All right, you'll hear it again with maybe a little more color. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be here. It's alumni weekend, right? School's not in session, so we can just keep it real here, okay? Feel free to interrupt if you have anything to share, any questions to ask, please, all right? Especially this crowd over here, okay? Anything you want to add or questions you want to ask, stop me along the way. And yeah, let's just have some fun here today. You two, behave, okay? All right. So I'm just going to take you on a little bit of a journey here, how a kid from Maine ends up at Alfred, and the journey from Alfred, and how I ended up getting tweeted by Bob Lonsberry, who, if you're not from Western New York, is a famous radio show host. Like Mark said, I was born and raised in Maine. It's a place where I have a long lineage. My mom's family is from. Goes back many generations. It's a beautiful place. We spend a lot of time there. We have a family cemetery that has generations of our family in it. Really just added a lot of, gave me a really sense of being down to earth and just a very wonderful place to grow up, frankly. My father, on the other hand, like Mark said, was born in Iran. He was one of 16 children. And unfortunately, he passed away when I was in high school. But he was a man that overcame tremendous adversity and was really someone who was dedicated to his education and really a lifelong learner. Here he is with his, a couple of his sisters studying. He self-taught himself English and Russian, knowing that those were kind of his tickets out of here, okay? And in the spirit of the Olympics, I'll also mention he did a short stint as the coach for the national Iranian Olympic team back in the 60s as well. So fun fact for you there. But as Mark also pointed on, there's this woman here, Donna Hutchinson, who's from Rochester, set up a scholarship for one male and one female from the country of Iran to come and study in the United States. And after screening hundreds of applicants, she ended up selecting my dad. And this is really, my dad's over here with the sweet hair. So this is the woman who really kind of started my journey here at Alfred also. So she set up the scholarship, invited my dad to come. He came, met my mom, and moved to Maine, and kind of the rest is history. But this woman here is also the individual who, when I was looking at schools, made herself, her apartment available, her car. I'd actually come out to take a trip to Hobart and William Smith. And while I was here, she suggested I come take a look at Alfred. I said, why not? I'm out here, took the car. And I'll never forget the first time I drove the car into this valley. It just changed me, right? I felt this immediate sense of belonging. And it was just immediately, it felt such a special place. And my wife and I were just out on the lawn with the grass, with our kids, and just sharing that same sentiment that we still to this day have, this feeling that we just kind of belong here and our kids belong here. It's a really special thing. So yeah, my time here, 4 years, got in, got out. It went by fast. I was an environmental studies and biology major, minored in anthropology and chemistry. And here are my transcripts. I didn't put them up for you guys to scrutinize them. But I did come across them as I was putting some slides together for this talk. And if you haven't looked at yours in a while, I highly recommend it. It's kind of an interesting journey down memory lane. But I put this up here to remind me to share that, you know, although my core curriculum in my majors were so strong and solid, it was everything else about Alfred that just created so much color and texture for me. You know, from, I mean, just everything about it, the people, the community, and all of the other coursework I did that was not my major, that really just added so much more context to my core curriculum. So I can see you're really trying to check out my GPA. So all right, so I'm going to change the slide. Slide before you get anything. Hold on a second here. So, and it wasn't just the coursework, right? But the value really here was the people in the community. And I can't speak enough to that. I just, having been around a lot of other institutions of higher learning, I just can't reiterate how accessible the people, the faculty, the department heads were to me while I was here. And I know I'm not alone. Really strong mentors throughout my career that just fostered all of my interests in a way that really shaped who I am. Here's Brad Bowden, Gene Cardinale, the current chair of the biology department, Catherine Fink, and Cheryl Emmons. And over here is Donna Hutchinson, by the way, who's responsible for not only my dad coming to the States, but me coming to Alfred. But my time here at Alfred, in the biology department in particular, was very memorable. I remember Cheryl Emmons, who's here in the audience with us today. I remember her being so engaged with us. Every lab I did, I remember her coming around, going to workstation, checking us out, making sure we were paying attention and doing what we were supposed to do. And she would come around, and it was like every experiment we were doing, it was like she was seeing it for the first time, even though it's the 27th year in a row she's been doing this. It was still new and exciting for her. And it was that newness and excitement and that hands-on approach to learning that really just got me excited. And that's all I can ask for, right? And even for my kids, you know, I just want them to be excited about anything, you know, just get in there and be excited, pursue it. And that's really what I needed at this time when I was going through my educational and learning experience. And so that's what I did. I worked right downstairs in the Powell Campus Center mailroom, PCC Box 36. It's ingrained in there for life. So I got to know everyone's faces around here, but the money I saved up from working down there I used in the summers to travel, and I traveled quite a bit. And I took that hands-on learning process out into the field to just get exposure. What do I like? What do I not like? I spent some time in Honduras working in a dental clinic, pulling teeth from rural Hondurans who drink coffee all day, chew on their sugar cane, and then eat the tough corn maze for dinner. It's a very uninhabitable place for all that sugar and acid to be in your teeth with minimal dental hygiene. So we're out there just learning on the fly, really. And another summer I spent on a research vessel sailing from Hawaii to San Francisco, really getting an immersive look into marine biology, and decided after days and days of being seasick that wasn't the place for me. But I really liked the research. Aspect of it, and all of these interests that I started to explore and dabble in, I could bring back to Alfred, and all of those interests were further fostered and encouraged for me to explore and develop. So with that said, the most important and most valuable relationship that I forged here was not with my formal mentors, but it ended up being Rachel. And I could give you a whole lecture on this topic, but I'm sure she'd kill me. But I will share one anecdote, and that was the night before graduation. We're packed up to go, and she comes next door. We were next door neighbors, which is how we met. And she came next door. We had been dating for about a year at that point. She said, "Kian, I'm going to be taking off tomorrow right after graduation. I'm leaving. I'm already packed up. And I've decided I'm going to head back, and I'm going to start working for the family business in Rochester. And that's what I'm going to do. That's where I'm going to be. That's my goal, and that's my plan. So if you want to get on board and join me in my plan, you can do that. I know you're going to go to Boston and do your graduate school, but I am going to go do this, and take it or leave it. No hard feelings. This has been a good run. Whatever you want to do." So I said, "Wow, geez, okay." And then as she's leaving, she says, "Oh, and because I'm taking off right after, I need to know by tomorrow morning." And I said, "Wow, here's a woman that knows what she wants, knows how to communicate her needs, and she's the same strong, beautiful, confident woman." And I knew right then and there. I think you guys know the rest of the story. But so that's what I did, right? I went to Boston University, really started gaining a lot more of my research skills, and quickly. Came back to Rochester, and 10 years and one day ago, we got married, and had some kids, and here we are. Yeah. So 10 years ago, yesterday we celebrated our 10-year anniversary. It was a beautiful day. It was much like today, very hot and humid, sticky. We were surrounded by a large group of our Alfred University alumni friends, and there's someone in here who wasn't an AU alum, and he's pretty sad about it, understandably so. And we have two beautiful children as well. So this is, we got married, had a party, and we got back to work. And one of the things that really got me going in research was working on aerial refuelers. Okay, these are the aerial refuelers. The Hercules C-130s are large planes. They refuel all the fighter jets and our bombers mid-flight. Now, the Air Force had contracted my team to better understand how these guys who climb into the fuel cells to repair, because naturally they're prone to a lot of leaks with all the pressure changes, how they are they okay? They come out, they are visibly intoxicated, okay? It's JP8, which is the fuel that our fighter jets fly on, are very toxic, it's very potent, and these guys are just more or less swimming in it. So this is my real first foray in the big leagues of research, okay? It was complicated, it's complex, technical. We're drawing blood, taking urine samples every morning and every evening. We are measuring their cognitive performance. There was so much to keep track of, and I was responsible for managing all of the logistics there. And it really, just opened my eyes to the complexities of doing good research and collecting quality data to make informed decisions. But this experience here was also my first time I got my first publication, which just got me more excited about data handling and management and doing this sort of thing. But I learned a lot of really valuable skills that now carry over into the emergency room where I work now at the University of Rochester Medical Center. It's a very similar sort of environment, very chaotic, totally unpredictable, quiet days, loud days. I mean, anything you can imagine, it happens, plus some. And it's an environment where, we still need to get the job done and collect information and data so that we can, improve public health at large. So that's where we are now. Another wonderful perk I have at working at the university, if you are not familiar, it sits on the intersection of the Genesee River and the Erie Canal, and we also happen to live on the Erie Canal. So in the summertime, I get to commute to work by boat, which is really nice, nice added perk. So it's better than be sitting in traffic and red lights. So I not only do the research inside the emergency department, but also outside, largely with athletes. There's a world-renowned concussion researcher that works, Dr. Jeff Nazarian, Uncle Jeffy, as the kids say, who's a very dear friend and really got me kind of exposed to this side of things. Working with the athletes, better understanding concussion management, diagnosis, treatments, but it's also just a lot of logistics. We're drawing blood from them before and after games, practices. We have them wired up with sensors on their bodies, and it's a lot of prep work. It's got to be done right. There's labeling. There's PHI, public health information that needs to be carefully monitored and collected. So just a lot going on, a lot to manage, but it's also a lot of fun. But having done that for a while, I really wanted more, and I felt I could do more and wanted to grow what I was doing. So, and I was at a point where I felt I needed some tools to go do that. So I enrolled in the Simon Business School, which is the first place that I had the pleasure of meeting Mark Zupan. I'll tell you, he has the same infectious smile that he still does today, super supportive, so approachable. And I was so delighted when I heard that he was taking the reins here at Alfred several years ago now. I know how an approachable guy he is. I know that the students feel comfortable approaching you, and really, really happy about that. So my time at Simon was great. It was very enlightening, and it really got me thinking more about running my research program as more of a business and growing that out, and that's what I did. I started taking on a lot more of my own projects. I convinced my department chair to create a faculty role for me because I'm have a little bit of a non-traditional career path here. He did that. He totally saw the value in doing that and has supported me ever since. So today, my primary focus is working with industry sponsors. So folks that are not academics necessarily. I shouldn't say that. A lot of them are academics as well. It's private industry, whether it's corporation, private, public. These are outside companies that have some sort of, it's late stage research. So if you think about basic science and petri dishes, and you move to kind of animal models, and then maybe to humans, and then you have a commercial product, right? I'm kind of at that tail end of the things, getting things out into the public to use so that we can actually put them to use in hospital systems or in our homes or wherever it might be. So a large main area of focus is in these diagnostics. So a lot of these like toaster-sized things that just can either help make quicker decisions, better decisions, and help throughput through the healthcare system. So I have to say I can't do any of this without a phenomenal research team. It is very much a team sport. It is. We are. I'm asking a lot of them. They're very hard workers. Couldn't do any of it without them, really. Yeah. And so So today I have a portfolio of research. These are some of my largest clients that have been with me the longest. There is some federal funding in there as well, but my specialty is really working with some of these larger companies and helping them get what they need so that they can go to the FDA and get their products approved. Here's a list of some of the FDA approvals that me and my team have supported getting to the FDA. These have all been FDA approved, except with the exception of the 2 COVID tests, which have been approved for emergency use only, but when that's lifted, we'll get approval there. So things are going well, right? We're cooking with gas. My team is going well. I have a lot of things going, starting projects, ending old ones, and then the pandemic hits, and it's chaos. And we're at home with my kids, okay? And keeping pants on my kids is the least of my concerns. It's like, what are we going to do from minute to minute? It was like just days and days of, stretching my creativity to its lengths. And so I do what I always do when I am in areas or periods of uncertainty, and that's just get outside. So that's what I did. Every morning I'd wake up, we'd have eggs or pancakes, and we got right outside. I think we went to like 63 consecutive days we got out for a hike. Some days it was just a couple minutes. Other days it was nice, wonderful hikes, but you know how the wind blows through here some days, and you just decide not to go to class because the wind is just too bad out there. So same sort of thing, but we did it. And most of the time I felt like I was just having one on the front, one on the back, just trying to survive. But it was nice. Our family really came together and had a lot of nice time. And that's when I got an email from a colleague of mine at Baylor. You don't need to read all of it. But I get a lot of emails once or twice a week, I would say, asking me for my support and my resources to help accomplish, take on a new study or join, take on a new device or work with a new partner to try to take on another project. And I'm now in a position where I can really pick and choose the ones that I want to, the ones that are the best fit for me. And I got this one, and it just had a much different tone to it, right? And he writes, I had one of my techs die of COVID this week. I really need an accurate point of care test that works in the ED. I need to identify COVID in real time. We plan to study a lateral flow test, and if it's as accurate as the PCR test, it will change our world. Attached is the budget, the contract. If you want to negotiate the terms, you can't be involved. We're going to be moving at lightning speed. He wanted to get going, and if we get this done, we'll be making 50 million. Abbott will be making 50 million assays, and be safe. I hope we can change the world. Now, normally when I get emails asking me to change the world, I just send them to my spam folder. But in this case, it felt different. And one of the reasons why it felt different was because at the time, my team, who were also working from home, research had been shut down at the university for non-COVID research. I'd asked them, do you guys want to be furloughed? You'll be making just as much, if not more money, with unemployment. All of them said no, we want to do it. I said, okay, great. Then I'm going to go find us some COVID research then, if that's how we get back to work and if that's what you guys want to do. So I knew I had the resources available. I knew I had the team available. And I really felt a responsibility to step up and do it. And finally, for once, I was like, I can actually do something about my situation. I can't put pants on my kids, but maybe I could help solve this problem here. So that's what I did. And really, or at least I sought out to try. I said, you know what? I'll at least do this. They said, we need basically everything done. You can't negotiate the contract. You can't negotiate the terms of the budget. It's a take it or leave it thing. We got to get going right now. So I said, okay, fine. So, a lot of the confidence that I had grown from having such approachable department heads here at Alfred and pitching them ideas like, hey, I want to do this independent study in New Zealand, and this is why I think it's just going through those exercises of making unreasonable requests to our senior leaders here at Alfred. It really helped me gain the confidence to go to our senior leadership at University of Rochester, knock on their door and let them know, hey, listen, I need to make another unreasonable request here, and this is what I need you to do. So a testament to them, they heard loud and clear. They saw the value in this, and what normally takes about 3.5 to 4 weeks from this stage, we got done in about 36 hours. So the contracting, the legal, the budget, the regulatory stuff all got through very quick, and we were off and running. Okay. Now, I know I said school is not in session. Does anyone have any questions right now, by the way? Everything? Okay, we're on. Oh, yeah? What do you got? Oh, you're just joking. Jokester up here. Okay, so I know I said school's not in session, but I do want to tell you why I think this test is pretty neat, okay? And that's its technology, okay? This is a lateral flow test. Does anyone know what a lateral flow is? Know what that means? Okay. Well, so a lateral flow, it's super simple. Like Mark mentioned, it's the same thing as a urine pregnancy test, same technology. You have something that you're looking to test. Is it there or is it not, right? In this case, it's a viral particle, nasty coronavirus particle, okay? So you take a swab, you stick it in this sample pad right here, and it moves via capillary action. Capillary action is the same thing, like when Lucy throws up in the car, I'll put a paper towel in it and you'll see water go against gravity up the paper towel, right? That like the water kind of pulling it up, right? So same sort of mechanism, right? So you get it wet and it slowly starts moving down the piece of paper. Okay, so you put it in and it moves and it attaches into this conjugate pad. This conjugate pad has some antibodies impregnated in it that will pick up the sample if it's there. Now, all of these antibodies also have these little red dots. Think about them as like lights, okay? And then it keeps moving down the strip of paper, and it'll either attach if it's able to form a sandwich. If the viral particle is not there, these blue antibodies will just keep running off. And here we have a positive control line here. So this will light up red, telling you that the sample worked. In fact, it wasn't like wet ahead of time and nothing's moving around. It says that, yes, it worked. So that's lateral flow. That's how it works. Very simple technology. And this is what they look like. Here they are. So what was that question? Yeah? So here they are. I think I have one in my pocket. Very small, very simple. You know, bigger than a credit card, smaller than a cell phone. Here's a small piece of paper right there. And that's all there is to it. Has anyone held one of these, seen these? You probably, how many people have had a COVID test? Yeah, almost just about everybody. Both of my kids have as well. I test them all the time. They don't like it, but sometimes they need to get tested, and that's what we'll do. But okay, so if you haven't, I have some in here if you guys want to touch and feel them afterwards and see what they're like. But this is it. It's super self-contained, and the beauty of them is that they're very cheap to manufacture. You can ship them anywhere. You don't need a lab technician. You don't need reagents. You know, you more or less just need a Q-tip to take a sample. And it's not, you know, it's different than a PCR test in that it doesn't, you know, it's not a nasopharyngeal. It's not that brain biopsy sample that goes all the way back, right? It has the benefit of just being, you know, just goes up a little bit in your nares, you know, maybe just 5 or 7 millimeters. And, right, it's quick, it spits out a result in 15 minutes or less. And it's super scalable. Reliable technology that we know about, and so it makes it really ideal for repeat or mass testing on kind of large numbers. So what's the downside about it is that when you have speed, you trade off the accuracy. And that's pretty typical of any diagnostic test. That's a typical kind of conundrum that you're in. And that accuracy, from what we've learned from testing this, is it gives about a 3% false negative rate. And if that's not making sense in your head, if you have 100 people that you know have COVID, that have a viral load, they're shedding viral particles, you have 100 of them, you know that for sure. If you were to test all of them with this, 3 of those people would come back with a negative result. So that can be dangerous, right? If you think about really widespread mass testing, there are certain places where you need to be 100% sure that they are negative when it says they're negative. But and the reason that is if you think about this, how much virus you have in your body, and you're just testing, going through day-to-day testing, and you pick up COVID, there's a short window of time when you don't have a whole lot of virus in your body to light up that line, right, on that slide I showed you with the COVID, right? You need signal there. And if you just have a tiny bit of signal, it's not going to show that. So you need a little bit of signal. So the way we get around this 3% false negative is to just repeat the test in, say, 24 hours or so. And then you can really bring down the false negative rate. And it's relatively easy to do that because you can because they're cheap tests. They're easy to do and easy to access. So that's the test. I feel like as soon as we started this project, we ended it. It was a very quick thing. It was by far the fastest study that I've ever done and probably ever will do. They were very unusual circumstances. It was also nice in that it was the only project we were doing at the time because the university was not allowing any other research. But in a very short period of time, just a matter of 6 or so weeks, we enrolled 500 patients that came into the emergency room, pulled samples from them, tested them out, shipped them off back to Abbott so that they could just confirm what was going on, confirm what the actual result was with PCR. And they were immediately in play. Okay, so this is at the U of R. I'm sure a lot of schools around the country looked like this. And at this time, when PCR testing was still hard to get to, hard to scale up, supply chains were kind of were pretty broken. This was really a game changer. The federal government at the time had exclusive contract to buy all of the tests, which they did, and then they distributed all of the tests to the states at the state level, and the governors decided how they got rolled out. Here in New York State, the majority of those tests ended up at institutions of higher education and nursing homes and other government agencies. So here's one of our athletic trainers scanning. Here's one of my undergraduate research assistants helping out with student flow. But it was immediately in play and really made a difference in terms of getting things back to some semblance of normalcy. And today we have available today are some over-the-counter COVID tests. I've heard that these are not really being stocked at the shelves right now. My guess is because they're scaling up to go back and being more centrally managed. But they are available. They come in a pack of 2. And the reason they do that is not for you and a buddy, but it's that whole sensitivity issue and managing those false negatives and that repeat testing. And so it says very clearly on the box, and the FDA only allows these to be sold when they're used as a serial test. And it's for that exact reason. They're 2 tests for the same person, and they recommend it being 3 days apart, so that in case that first one, if you're getting a signal, if you're starting to develop an infection and starting to produce, viral particles, and starting to shed them, that if it didn't catch it the first time, it will by day 2 or 3. There are some other tests out there on the market as well that are also rapid antigen tests. And here's a list of them as of earlier this year. But again, a lot of them require instruments, which again are, not everyone has access to this. I mean, this is just a easy thing. It's a standalone test. You don't need an instrument. So you also don't need a highly trained technical employee to do it. But in terms of the accuracy, it's really one of the best, in my opinion. It's also one of the shortest to result time, and it's also the least invasive. So for all those reasons, I think it's a pretty great test. So I kind of went through this pretty quick, and I'm happy to take some questions about my experience or if anything else about kind of how things work in the emergency room through this time. Before I do that, though, I just want to take a minute again to acknowledge my beautiful wife, Rachel. I am so grateful to have such a wonderful partner, and my 2 wonderful children, Mani, who's just super curious and creative, and Lucy, who's a beautiful girl with such strong chi. I am just so grateful to her. And Rachel's not only a wonderful partner and beautiful mother, but she's also a business owner in and of herself. She works at Thruway Spring in Rochester, New York, which is a heavy truck repair shop. Her grandfather started it in 1955, and she started working there as soon as she graduated from Alfred. She moved right in there, just like she said she would, stuck to the plan. And since then, she's increased sales by 76%. And her official title as an officer of the company is Secretary of Business. She handles all of their accounts receivables. She's always the first person to answer the phone, which can be in the hundreds certain times of the year. And she's by far the hardest working in our family, without a doubt. So with that, I will happy to answer any questions or share any more thoughts. Yeah, oh, great. Okay, so the question was, how's my position changed or evolved with this discovery of the Delta variant? Is that right? Now, when you say my position, you mean like my workflow, or like my Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good question. So let me start by saying that, like, right before the Delta variant, because things had just been so ramped down for so long, a lot of my clients that I contract with, we had shut things off because pretty much, I mean, there was some variation from institution to institution, but generally everyone kind of took each other's lead, right? Like, you don't need to be doing research on this or that right now. COVID, yes, but everything else. So everything kind of got shut down. So the only companies that were really in the game were those doing COVID research, and that's what I did. Now things changed. We got a grasp on it. A lot of those other companies came back. We got their projects up and running off the ground. Now it's still kind of that way, and it hasn't changed so much. I think that, if you ask me in another 2 months, I will have a much different answer for you. I think we're all kind of feeling this hesitancy. I think I heard Janet just tell me that by Monday we're going to be wearing masks again here. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that by Christmas we'll be talking about a different variant. And Merry Christmas. I hope not. But I was talking with Dr. Emmons here, and for those of you who don't think about viruses ever, and I know we don't want to, but like, this is exactly what viruses do. I mean, they vary, they mutate. I mean, that's how they survive. And if they don't mutate, they're going to die. And that mutation happens when it moves from one person to another. That's when they get that opportunity to do that. So as long as we continue to allow that to happen, things will continue to vary. And I think that my answer will be a whole lot different. Yeah, in a few months. Yeah, you bet. Yeah.
The rapid antigen test is not acceptable across the border in either direction from Canada to the U.S. Can you comment on that? Why and how you think about it?
Okay, so I didn't hear all the question. I think I heard the rapid antigen test is not accepted across the border.
In either direction, you can't use it to come into the States or to go back to Canada. You want to comment on why, what you think about it?
Yeah, I run into this problem all the time when I go to drop my kids off at school, and they say, I get a phone call from them, and they say, Lucy has a fever. You need to come get her, and I need a doctor's note when I get back. And that, you never needed that before. It was just like common courtesy, right? Kid's sick, keep him home. It's gross. So, with no fever though, I still need a full doctor's note, and I say, hey, listen. Michelle, here's a negative COVID test. I can do it right in front of you. Now I get that I'm privileged and that I have access to that, and not everyone does. So it's not fair. I get that. But the other piece, and same thing, is like it's not as accurate, okay, as a PCR test. And
Can you speak to why that is?
yeah, I can. Okay, sure. Let me get back to there. But it's also, there's no record, right? It's just the test, and that's it. It's not the other piece that I was hoping not to go here, but because it's a little bit complicated. But there's something called a Clia Certificate. Okay, and Clia Certificate is something that a laboratory is issued that basically says you guys are clean, you guys have highly trained technicians, you guys know what you're doing. You guys are up to the standards, and this is a federally issued certificate. And there's chains of custody. You're making sure that these are actual COVID tests. They came from the manufacturer. They were shipped on this date. We know the temperature of the vehicle that they were shipped in transit, right? So these sorts of things. We know the temperature that you've been storing them at since they arrived on your site, and we know who signed for them. So for all of those reasons, right, I mean, I could just hand you some of these tests, and I'm happy to. I have a whole box of expired ones right here. But the expiration dates aren't on the back of these tests themselves. They're just on the box. And, like they're just too easy. So that's, again, why it makes it so easy just for rapid mass testing at a concert, at a cocktail party, at a whatever. But when a government agency says, I don't want you to come in my border until I know that you're negative, sorry, this isn't going to cut it. Give me a doctor's note. Go get the real thing. And the real thing being a PCR test, which is the gold standard, right? Because they'll actually get in there, crack it open, find the nucleic material. heat, cool, and replicate it over and over, and see, and any signal that's there, they will, you will find it. Does that answer your question? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, you had a question in the back about why.
Yes, I graduated in 1979 with nursing here at Alfred, and I work at SWE OCC in Syracuse, New York, with the college students with school health, and we are obviously, as Alfred University is going to require the COVID vaccination for all the students. You can have a medical or religious exemption. At this point in time, we also may test weekly. We use a saliva pool testing. It is considered PCR.
Right, great.
Nothing was stuck up our nose.
Yeah, good.
In our mouth.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is that lateral flow as well?
No.
It's still the PCR.
That's a PCR test.
Spinning.
That's a PCR test. There's some spinning. Yeah, there's some spinning that might that will happen. Yeah, from the saliva sample.
But the PCR is known to have quite a few false positives because it spins out. It could be anything.
Yeah, but false positives.
COVID.
But for something like this, take false positives all day. It's the false negatives that you want to worry about. It's the people who you think are negative but are actually positive. Yeah, sure. Go sit in this lecture hall with 100 people, thinking that that's the danger. The false positives are the ones that are okay. Hey, buddy, do you want to? Yeah, you okay?
That's not how it's viewed in the outside world.
You're right. You're right.
Just cut right over anything you want to do. You have to isolate for 10, 14 days. You can't go clinical. You can't go.
You're totally right about that.
False negatives, if you can serially test, why aren't we using more of those? I mean, the tests that maybe show 3% false negatives, why aren't we using those more often?
I don't know. That's a great question, and I think you should. I would send an email to one of your director of University Health Services and ask him about that.
A lot of no's today.
Okay, good, and I'm happy to talk to you more after this as well. But I think that's a great opportunity for folks that are asymptomatic, that you just want to kind of run through. I mean, and this is what we do. We don't do the saliva at U of R. We test with these rapid tests. There's a random pool. Every two weeks you will get tested, but you come in at random and kind of check that out.
Well, what if you go to lateral
Yeah.
flow? It's only testing for COVID, correct?
Yes, yeah.
It's negative.
You're negative for COVID, right. So whatever fever you have and whatever, right, yeah, right. You might have the flu and you should also stay home, or RSV, which, and just, fun fact out there, I mean, there's been a lot of RSV going around. I don't know if anyone can speak to this. You probably don't want to raise your hand. I won't ask you to, but I know my kids have had it, and kids in my kids' classes have had it, which is very rare for the summer month, for RSV to be spreading during the summer months. It's just a real anomaly. Nobody's sure why still. It's likely having to do with just the fact that we're all hanging out now, and we haven't for a long time, and it's just kind of reemerging. But it's generally the winter, your common cold during the winter, which is which is the RSV. Yes, Lucy, I'm trying to talk to look at all these beautiful people out here.
I wanted to mention about PCR. I mean,
Yeah.
You talked about viral load. PCR.
When can you come upstage with me?
When I'm done talking, please stay seated.
A wider range. The PCR test is that sensitivity. For the Delta variant, there's so much more in the nose, so you're probably going to pick it up a lot more, than other variants. But at any rate, this test is a window where it's the sweet spot when you have a lot that you can detect.
With this test, there's a window where you can't test it, and that's where the danger is.
Right.
Everything else, and even after you're infectious, one of the dangers with this test is you still might test positive. Just if you think about the Civil War, right, and Gettysburg, right, there's just debris everywhere, and there is still to this day. And if you go dig a hole, you'll probably find some evidence, right? Same sort of thing. You have a whole lot of junk in there that's it's in there, and it will stay in there for a while, and you can pick it up. And because this does not test the nucleic acid, the genetic material inside, but just the stuff and debris on the outside, that's why you can still test positive later. And to your point, I would much rather have a false positive, someone who said, oh, you're positive, you better go quarantine, when they're actually negative, than someone who's truly positive, but the test is telling me they're negative. That's the danger, right? That's when things can get. Okay, yeah, sure. So for those of you who don't know what pool testing is, because we, for so long and under certain situations, had testing capacity issues, right? Back when I got that email that I showed you, that was a time when still, if you wanted to test, it was like 3 days just for an answer. And one of the ways that we got around this, I know they did this here at Alfred, was everyone would get swabbed in here. So all 60, 80 of us would get a swab. I'd take that and I'd group them into 10s, right? I'd label them and put them in 10. I'd say, everyone in this section, well, everyone in that quadrant of the room is in this vial. Everyone over here is in this vial. And then I go test it. If one of those comes back, if that comes back positive, I know that somebody on this side of the room is positive. But that one that came back over negative, I know that everybody over there is negative. But somebody over here is positive. So I'll go back to those nasal swabs that I pulled and actually test all of those individually. So that's what the pooled testing is. And it just helps to bang out 10 tests. If I have 10 people, pool them all together, they're negative, great. I can just throw those away, send them the results, they're negative. I don't have to do 9 more tests or 10 more tests. In that case, does that make sense? Yeah, so that's just an advantage to kind of get ahead of the speed. Yeah, and obviously when the prevalence rises, it can kind of backfire on you. You're just essentially, every group of 10, someone's going to be positive, or however, and there's different ratios of how they do that to kind of control the flow of things. Yeah?
Again, with this issue of should there be some use of both tests,
Yeah.
we recently, whether we should have been or not, we were in Europe, and we were tested every day on this boat that we were on. And at the end, they gave us this certificate, clean bill of health. We got to the border, and we gave them the paper, and instantly we went through. Nearly instantly. Everybody else who didn't have that piece of paper had all sorts of problems getting through. What does it mean to the general person now, and how do we go about using, say, multiple tests or something to develop it as we're worrying about that new variation coming out? The longer they're out there, the more there's a chance of them varying.
Definitely, and the more there is a chance of getting infected.
Other than that issue of we got to get everybody vaccinated, is there something with your test or a new one that might come up that somehow could help this issue?
Yeah, so I think the question you're asking is like, how do I make sense of all this, and where do we go from here, right?
I'm sorry if I didn't quite how to word it.
Yeah, I totally get it, and I think that your question, whatever it is buried in there, and what the question you're asking me is just, it really speaks to just something I think that all of us are feeling, and it's just, there's so much mixed messaging. There's a lot that's still unknown about this. How do we manage this? How do we get a hold on it? And it's so difficult, especially when you travel internationally with the inconsistencies, right? And you can see it from community to community, from urban to rural. I mean, there's just so much different mindset about this and how to handle it and how to behave and what's appropriate and what's smart and what's responsible. And there's a lot packed in there that I think we could touch on that that we could go into, but I would say, at the end of the day, you just need to do what's most comfortable for you. Everyone has such a different circumstance and lives in such a different situation and has so many different risk factors to manage, and everyone manages risk in very different ways. And in terms of testing, if it were me, if I tested myself and I got a positive antigen test like this one, I would just go right over to urgent care and ask for a PCR test. Hey, I tested positive with this. Or again, wait 24 hours, 36 hours, and test again. But yeah, if I got a positive test with an antigen, I would go right in, get a PCR test, and quarantine until you kind of know what's going on. But because things can change so quick, you just got to do your due diligence. I hope I answered. Or maybe I also don't think I fully understood the actual question you were asking. Okay, yeah.
How do we use the tests to the best use, the best protective level for people?
Yep.
You said they're not using your testing.
Yeah, you're right. So this particular test got a Clia waiver, which means that there are places where you can use them outside of these very regulated labs. And there's still, they have home tests now. I don't, until they're made more widely available, until they scale up. One thing that is really frustrating for me is, right, they're so inaccessible. Why can't we just go buy 50 of them? And why are they $23 at a CVS for a 2-pack? That just, to me, I think, like, yes, so I think there are 3 pillars that this pandemic is standing on. One is social distancing and masking, and just, wash your hands, come on. The other 2 are, vaccine, getting the vaccine, and then the third is testing. I think you need all 3 to a certain extent, depending on the circumstances, and when it's appropriate. But the testing thing is really, I think, falling short. It works in the healthcare system and hospitals. We have access, we have labs. But I think the rapid testing, for $23 for 2 tests, I mean, that's just out of reach for such a huge proportion of the population, particularly those that might utilize it the most and it might have the most value to. They're just not going to spend $23 for a COVID test. I don't know why we can't subsidize these and get them out there and pump them out and give them out and let people use them as they wish. I wish we would, but that's above my pay grade. But that's what I would do. I don't know why. I know Abbott is just manufacturing these and they're distributing them. And I don't know why they're not licensing the technology to manufacture at other plants. I wish they would. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a different kind of a question. It has nothing to do with COVID.
Is that Gary?
Yes.
Wow. It's great to see you. The last time I saw you, I was in your office for a plagiarism issue that, okay, all right.
You have a bunch of students here who are about to embark on a 4-year journey.
Yep.
And they don't know in every way exactly what they're getting into. Knowing what you know today, if you're a senior in high school, you're about to enter office as a freshman, what is the advice that you wish you had been given that no one gave to you?
Okay. I would say, I'm just spitballing here, Gary, okay? I would say to you guys, all right, my homies from Rochester over here and Nantucket, I would say the more that you put in, okay, the more that you give yourself, the more it'll come back tenfold, okay? It's like it's like an investment, all right? It's just going to grow and grow and grow, but it's going to be, and it'll take some time. The returns won't come for a little while, but the more principal capital you pump in there, the more rewards will just flow, okay? You dedicate yourself, you put your time in, it's going to feel uncomfortable, it's going to feel messy, you're going to have feelings, it's going to be tiring, you're going to have personal problems, they're going to feel like problems that you're so sure that nobody else has had these kind of problems before. Trust me, none of your, they're common, okay? But they're still your problems, okay? And your challenges to overcome. I would say just invest yourself in your own education, and you will reap the rewards. Just give it time and forge connections with the people around you, especially the people that maybe you don't feel like you want to forge relationships with. Everybody has something to offer. This is such a unique place. Special people are here, and the folks that are here want to be here, and they want to help you. Okay, without the students, there is no Alfred University. Okay, well, if all you guys left, right, no one would be here, right? So I mean, it's really about you. I know that Mark gets that. Okay, at the end of the day, it's about you, and that's why we're here. So really dig in and give it your all. You have some questions, or you just laugh at these guys? Yeah, I know they're hard to take serious. Yeah, and my wife, she's all done, so, yeah.
Do you still play soccer?
Yeah, I still play soccer. This guy just started playing. These guys play soccer all the time. Yeah, I played for a while, as an adult. Played the saxophone. Lucy does ballet, she wants you to know. But yeah, very much still a big part of our life. Rachel also played a lot of soccer in her day as well. Yeah, still very connected with my soccer boys as well. Yeah.
You mentioned influenza as like maybe the next thing, influenza A and B. Are there other viruses that this technology would work best for? It really depends on demand, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the hot spots of whatever virus.
Yeah, so are you asking, are there other opportunities to use this sort of test for other sort of viruses? Yes.
I mean, what do you specifically, your lab, going to do any more research? Or
I see.
Abbott is probably going to.
Yeah, so no, so this was a great one. We're still collecting samples and trying to get ahead of any variation in the viruses and making sure that this test is still useful and what sort of tweaks need to be made to make sure those antibodies are still attaching and pulling down a signal. There are plenty of other studies that I do like this with other things, strep, C. diff. Yeah, strep is a good one. That's one that we have, and that's pretty stable and consistent. So, you guys want to say hi? Why don't you guys say hi to everybody? Hi. This is Molly, and this is Lucy. Yeah. I'm happy to talk to anybody else after this. We can continue on our conversation. Oh, yeah, student question. My favorite student questions. Anybody? You guys, someone's got to be wondering something. Yeah. Yeah, so the best way to fix that, the best way to fix that is to really only, if you test people that have symptoms, it has a little bit of a higher accuracy. But really the best way to do that is to test someone multiple times, the same person multiple times. And that'll really this is probably the best way to increase your accuracy. And make sure you get a good, nice sample, You want it to be a little juicy when you pull that thing out of your nose. Yeah, another student question, yeah.
We've seen that this virus has mutated and changed over the past year or so. So do you believe if it changes more rapidly, a new test will be needed?
Yeah, I think that the test will have to be tweaked. If they're pull in some sales and redirect course a little bit. But the good thing is we already have the whole infrastructure. All the machines have been turned over. We're ready to just, that's the expectation. And so we're ready. We're trying to get ahead of that and ready to tweak it to get in there. Yeah.
What about with the vaccine?
Yeah.
I was thinking, since this is
Yeah. Virus.
sorry,
Yeah.
of the virus, would there a new vaccine looking to come out?
Vaccines are outside my wheelhouse. I do, but I know that that's something that is being watched very, very closely. And there will and it likely be a time where it mutates so much that it's no longer effective, but it also really depends on the individual and how well they respond to the vaccine shot they got and a lot of other factors. It's a very good question. It's complicated. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. This has been, I think they're telling me it's done here, so thank you very much.